commercial owners we only drive about 35% of the energy use in any building. So we are literally dependent upon our tenants to reach our goals. And therefore, the need for collaboration is fundamental to everything that we do. It's almost like when we think about the life cycle of buildings right now, I'm starting to talk about it as the life cycle of tenants.
Joining me today is Lauren Moss, Senior Vice President and Chief Sustainability Officer with Vornado Realty Trust. Now, you were on a panel here at REITworks that was focused on partnering with tenants to put ESG goals into action. In your opinion, how much has the need for collaboration changed in recent years?
I think the need for collaboration has always been there, right? As commercial landlords, our entire job is to ensure that tenants are comfortable in our buildings, right? That hasn't changed. I think COVID has changed the concept of health and wellness, right? What buildings provide in terms of safety, security, a place of refuge, a place where you can be sure you're not going to get sick, things like that. But at the same time, as a large owner with a public goal for carbon neutrality, what we're trying to do all the time is figure out how we run the best buildings possible, how we attract the best tenants possible. But also knowing that as a commercial owner, I said this on the panel, commercial owners we only drive about 35% of the energy use in any building. So we are literally dependent upon our tenants to reach our goals. And therefore, the need for collaboration is fundamental to everything that we do. It's almost like when we think about the life cycle of buildings right now, I'm starting to talk about it as the life cycle of tenants, right? From the moment they start the leasing conversations to the moments they move out. Sort of everything in between is so critical to the work that we're doing, trying to hit our goals, so that we really need to be working with tenants. And it is almost a one-on-one job.
Picking up on that idea of the partnership, how are landlords working with their tenants to reach those goals?
Right. I think it honestly starts from the beginning, right? The leasing conversations. Now, we have Class A buildings, and so we start with relatively sophisticated tenants or brokers representing them, asking about sustainability goals, et cetera. And then we start talking to them about the tenant fit-outs. We talk to them about sub-metering. We give them their data so that they understand how they're performing. And then we think through how we can help them. Again, one of the things we try and do in our group is show up with money. What kind of incentives are available for you to build the best space possible? How can we bring education to the people running your facilities? And those are the kinds of partnerships we're trying to forge, where we're really trying to bring them the solution and our expertise, because not everybody running the tenant space has the level of expertise that we do. So how can we complement it?
And landlords in New York City have been preparing for compliance with Local Law 97. What are the implications of that?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. So, there's gradations of implementation along the way. So the first compliance path is in 2025. Based on calendar year 2024 data. And what we're trying to do right now, and it sounds almost insane, but actually I think every owner in New York City is doing the same thing. We are literally building sort of energy models of existing buildings based on carbon emissions, tenant by tenant, meter by meter, ensuring that the tenants are accurately tagged for their type, because there's a different carbon emissions coefficient for every type of tenant. And then we're determining per tenant what their threshold is and where they're performing, and then working with them so that they understand the future of that. It sounds almost crazy, and that's what our team is doing. And that's, we've been talking a lot here about data at the conference, and it's almost funny because we've been talking forever about data, right? Like, that is the never-ending discussion, but it's how we use the data now, and we're getting so granular, but we're also really working hard to get it to the tenants so that they understand their performance, because what we don't want is fines. We want buildings that are as efficient as possible. We want tenants to be as comfortable as possible, but maybe that means we have to look at operating hours. Maybe that means we have to look at their occupancy. Maybe we have to make sure that the way that their building management system is set up is complementary to the building services we're providing them.
Now, of course, this applies to landlords in New York City, but it will be in other jurisdictions. What advice would you have to property owners that may see similar actions?
I mean, we are spoiled in New York in many ways because, this is going to sound funny, but because of our legislation. So we have had to benchmark our buildings for 10 plus years. So the data is given to us. The utilities have to give us data. And I know in many other jurisdictions, they really struggle to get data out of their buildings. So, first and foremost, there has to be this connection to utility companies and or submetering of your building so that you understand how you're performing. And then it's about making choices around what types of utilities you have. We in New York are very heavy natural gas users, but we also have a steam grid that is going green by 2040. So when we think about we've moved away from just electrification into I think decarbonization, which is a much more interesting discussion because it broadens the solutions. So we start with data, then we try and understand the performance of everybody in those buildings, and then you start to think about, can you make operational changes or do you really have to go into that base building system? And how do you look over time at the transitions?